Welcome back to Gotham Trends. You know those crypto pump and dump schemes everyone's talking about? Well, today, we're diving deep into how they actually work.
It's a fascinating, albeit shady, corner of the crypto world.
Yeah, and we want to give you the knowledge to spot these schemes, understand why crypto is so vulnerable, and most importantly, avoid getting caught up in them.
Exactly. Knowledge is your best defense in this space.
So let's get right to it. When we talk about pump and dumps, what kind of cryptos are we talking about? I mean, are we talking about Bitcoin, Ethereum, those big ones?
Not really. Those are way too established.
Okay.
Think smaller, much smaller. Those tiny little known coins, what we call low market cap coins.
Oh, okay.
Those are the prime targets for pump and dumps.
They're kind of like the quiet pawns of the crypto world, right?
Exactly. Even a small splash can cause a huge ripple.
So scammers can manipulate the price with a relatively small investment. Makes sense. But why are these smaller coins so volatile in the first place?
Well, think about it this way. If a small, unknown company suddenly announces a groundbreaking partnership, the stock price explodes, right?
Right.
Same thing with crypto. The slightest whisper of good news, real or fabricated, can send the price soaring, and any negative news can cause it to plummet.
Okay, I get it. They need that inherent volatility to make their artificial pump look believable.
Exactly. It needs to seem organic, right?
Right. So how do they actually create that illusion? It's not like they can just yell, buy this coin on Twitter and expect everyone to follow, right?
No, it's much more calculated than that. They have to weave a compelling story, a narrative that makes this tiny, worthless coin sound like the next Bitcoin.
Uh-huh. And that's where social media comes in, right?
Big time. They flood platforms like Telegram, Twitter, even TikTok with all sorts of hype, fabricated partnerships, promises of revolutionary tech, you name it.
And it all plays on people's fear of missing out, that classic FOMO.
Exactly. And to amplify that FOMO, they often bring in influencers, sometimes paid, to promote the coin to their followers.
Oh, so it's not just random posts. They're creating a whole ecosystem of hype. And I'm guessing these influencers don't always disclose their financial ties.
Not always, no. Which makes it seem like a genuine recommendation.
Okay, so they've got the narrative, they've got the hype, they've got the influencer boost. But how do they actually trigger that initial price spike to kick things off?
Well, it has to look organic, right? Like real people are buying in.
Right.
So that's where the orchestrators use their own funds. They'll make these strategically timed large buy orders, often when trading volume is low.
I see. And because it's a small cap coin, even a moderate buy can push the price up significantly.
Exactly. It's like setting off a firework, a controlled explosion to grab everyone's attention.
Now, they're manipulating it from the start.
Oh, absolutely. It's carefully calculated. And once that price starts climbing, they fan the flames even more. Screenshots of rising charts flood social media. That FOMO intensifies, and they create a frenzy.
A stampede of buyers rushing in, thinking they've found the next big thing. And sadly, people do fall for it, don't they?
They do, especially those new to crypto who are, well, maybe a little too eager to make a quick buck.
And they haven't learned to spot the red flags yet. They just see the price rising and assume it's legit.
And that's when the orchestrators strike. They pull the rug out, cashing out at the peak when everyone else is buying.
It's a classic bait and switch.
Textbook. They dump their holdings, usually a huge chunk of the total tokens in circulation. The price plummets, and all those who bought in late are left holding, well, worthless tokens.
It's heartbreaking, really. People can lose their savings chasing these fake dreams. So how do we protect ourselves? I mean, these schemes seem so well orchestrated. Are there even any warning signs to look out for?
There are, but you have to know what to look for.
Okay, like what? Give us the inside scoop.
Well, first, watch out for sudden, unexplained price spikes. If a coin's value skyrockets without any real news or development to back it up, that's a huge red flag.
Right, so no logical reason for the price to be pumping like that.
Exactly. Another thing, pay attention to how the coin is being promoted. If it's all hype and buzzwords, influencer endorsements, but no real substance, be very wary.
So basically, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, especially in the crypto world.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. What else?
Another big one, investigate the team behind the project. Are their identities and backgrounds verifiable? Do they have a proven track record?
So look beyond the hype and see if there's any actual substance behind the project.
Exactly. A legit project will have a clear and detailed white paper that outlines their goals, technology, everything. If the white paper is vague, full of jargon, or missing key information, red flag.
Makes sense. So it's like due diligence, but for crypto.
Exactly.
And finally, choosing a reputable exchange to buy and sell your crypto is crucial, right?
Absolutely. Reputable exchanges have stricter listing requirements, better security, and often implement measures to prevent market manipulation.
So they're kind of like the safer neighborhoods of the crypto world.
You could say that.
So minimizing risk by choosing platforms that prioritize security and transparency. It all makes sense.
Remember, knowledge is power in the crypto world. The more you understand about pump and dump schemes and their tactics, the better equipped you'll be to avoid becoming a victim.
Now let's get into some real-world examples of how these pump and dump schemes have played out, causing some serious damage in the market. We've all heard the stories, but let's break down what actually happened.
Looking at specific cases can really solidify our understanding of the tactics and the consequences. So
Yeah.
let's start with one of the most infamous examples, the Squid Game token.
Ah, yes. This one blew up back in 2021, right?
It did.
Riding the wave of that hit Netflix series.
Yeah.
Pure FOMO, right?
It was a textbook case of exploiting pop culture trends. Even though it had no official connection to the show, the creators managed to convince investors it was a legitimate opportunity, playing on that hype.
Yeah.
Pure hype.
And people went crazy for it. The
Yeah.
price skyrocketed, right?
Oh, it did. From a fraction of a cent to over $2,800 per token in a matter of days.
Wow.
And that drew in hordes of investors, many new to crypto who were completely unaware of the warning signs.
Yep, they just saw dollar signs.
Sadly.
And then, of course, it all came crashing down.
Inevitably. As soon as the orchestrators did their dump, the token's value plummeted to practically zero. Countless investors, many who had poured their savings into it, were left with nothing. It was just brutal.
It's a reminder that even when something seems trendy or attached to something familiar, you still have to do your due diligence.
You absolutely do. Always, always do your research.
Always. Okay, so what's another example that comes to mind?
Well, how about the Save the Kids token? This one used charitable branding to lure in investors.
Oh, man. This one always struck me as particularly cynical, preying on people's desire to do good.
Yeah, it was a clever tactic. It gained trust and attracted investors who might not have otherwise considered crypto, maybe even considered it too risky.
Right.
But they wanted to help a good cause, right? And they even secured endorsements from some prominent influencers, including members of FaZe Clan.
Oh, wow. FaZe Clan, the esports organization.
Yeah, them. So it all created this facade of legitimacy.
Masking their true intentions.
Exactly. But soon after launch, the inevitable happened. Orchestrators did their dump, the token's value collapsed, and investors, many of them young and impressionable, were left with huge losses.
It just goes to show that scammers can exploit any trend or sentiment, even those associated with good causes. It's really disheartening.
It is. And the fallout from the Save the Kids token was significant. It led to investigations, suspensions for the influencers involved, and a wave of criticism about the lack of transparency in influencer marketing.
Yeah, it really damaged trust,
Yeah.
especially for projects that genuinely aim to support charitable causes. It's like if they poison the well.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
Okay, so let's move on to, I guess, a slightly different example. How about that sex coin launched by the streamer, Ice Poseidon?
Ah, yes, that one was messy. Ice Poseidon, whose real name is Paul Danino, he heavily promoted Sixcoin to his massive following,
Right.
presented it as a revolutionary way for fans to support streamers directly.
So playing on that existing fan base and their loyalty.
Exactly. And it did gain traction quickly. But then, the whole thing unraveled when Danino admitted to withdrawing a large sum of money from the project's liquidity pool, essentially running off with the funds.
He basically pulled the rug out from under his own investors.
In essence, yes. And his actions sparked accusations of a pump and dump scheme, despite his claims that he was simply taking compensation for his efforts.
It just shows how quickly things can go wrong, especially when trust is broken.
It definitely highlighted the ethical complexities and the potential for abuse when influencers launch their own cryptocurrencies.
Okay, so moving on to a more recent example from 2024, that DIO token controversy. That one originally launched as part of like a blockchain gaming project by Fracture Labs, but then it got caught up in allegations of market manipulation by Jump Trading, which is a pretty prominent trading firm. What can you tell us about that one?
Well, that case was particularly significant because it involved a major player in traditional finance. Jump Trading was accused of orchestrating a pump and dump, using their influence and resources to inflate DIO's value and then dumping their holdings.
So it wasn't just some anonymous group operating in the shadows.
Right. This was a well-known firm allegedly manipulating the market.
And the consequences were severe.
Right, they were. DIO's value plummeted, retail investors were left with big losses, and it sparked investigations into jump trading's actions.
Yeah, it was a wake-up call, showing that even established players could be tempted by the relatively unregulated crypto market.
Absolutely. It highlighted the need for stronger regulations and greater oversight to prevent market manipulation, regardless of who's involved.
And speaking of high-profile figures and market manipulation, we have to talk about the Trump and Melania tokens that launched just this month.
Ah, yes, that's been causing quite a stir.
A former president and his wife promoting their own cryptocurrencies. I mean, that's unprecedented.
It is, and the response was immediate. Both tokens saw their values explode within days, driven by a combination of, well, hype, FOMO, and support from Trump loyalists.
But there were concerns right from the start, weren't there? Talk about potential pump and dump dynamics and ethical conflicts of interest.
There were. Critics quickly pointed out the lack of transparency surrounding the token's distribution and management.
Right, like how much of the tokens were held by Trump-affiliated entities.
Exactly. It created this possibility of coordinated sell-offs that could crash the market.
So the fear was that this could be a way to profit at the expense of their own supporters.
Potentially, yes.
And then, of course, there's the whole legal aspect. Some experts argue that foreign individuals or entities buying Trump or Melania tokens could be seen as indirect payments to the former president, potentially violating the Constitution's emoluments clause,
Right.
which prohibits federal officials from accepting gifts or payments from foreign governments without congressional approval.
It's a complex legal question that adds another layer of controversy to the whole thing.
Definitely. And then, of course, the SEC is now investigating whether these tokens are unregistered securities, which could lead to even more legal trouble.
It's a story that's far from over.
It's a reminder that the crypto world is often at the intersection of technology, finance, and even politics.
It is.
And as it becomes more mainstream, we can expect to see more of these complex situations arise.
Absolutely. And as investors, we have to be aware of these dynamics and approach any investment opportunity with a critical eye.
Especially when high-profile figures are involved.
Absolutely.
Now let's shift our focus a bit and talk about the global response to pump and dump schemes. How are regulators around the world tackling this growing threat in the crypto market?
Well, the good news is that regulators are finally starting to take this issue seriously. We're seeing more investigations, enforcement actions, and even new laws being implemented specifically to combat these scams.
That's encouraging.
It is. For example, back in 2021, the Australian Securities and Investments Commission, or ASIC, took a very proactive approach to dealing with pump and dumps that were being orchestrated on Telegram.
I remember hearing about that. They actually went undercover, right?
They did. ASIC operatives infiltrated several Telegram groups where these schemes were being coordinated. These groups often had thousands of members and were highly organized.
Wow. So they were able to observe these groups' activities and gather evidence from within.
Exactly. By identifying key individuals and documenting their tactics, they were able to build a case and take legal action.
I see.
They imposed fines, penalties, and really set a precedent for future cases.
Wow. So it was a significant win for regulators, showing that they were willing to use innovative tactics to protect investors.
And it also served as a powerful public awareness campaign, warning people about the dangers of participating in these coordinated pump and dump schemes.
So it was a multi-pronged approach, using enforcement, education, and prevention. Are we seeing similar efforts in other parts of the world?
We are. In 2025, South Korea made headlines for successfully prosecuting its first crypto pump and dump case.
Oh, interesting.
In this case, a group of individuals was accused of manipulating the prices of multiple altcoins, using social media to spread false information and coordinating large buy orders to create artificial demand.
So using that classic pump and dump playbook.
Exactly. But this time, they faced consequences. What's particularly notable is that South Korea was able to apply its newly implemented cryptocurrency regulations, which included stricter penalties for market manipulation.
So they actually had the legal tools to hold the perpetrators accountable.
They did. The individuals involved faced hefty fines and potential prison sentences. It sent a clear message that the South Korean authorities were serious about cracking down on crypto fraud.
These cases are encouraging. They show that regulators are starting to catch up and take concrete steps to protect investors.
They are. But it's an ongoing battle. The challenge is finding that balance between fostering innovation in the crypto space and protecting investors from harm.
It's a tough balance to strike. You don't want to stifle the growth of this new technology, but you also can't allow it to become a breeding ground for scams.
Exactly. And as we saw with the Trump and Melania controversy, the lines between legitimate projects and potentially manipulative schemes can be really blurry.
Especially when high-profile figures are involved. So it's a constant game of cat and mouse between regulators, scammers, and, well, everyone in between.
It really is. But the more aware investors are of these schemes, the better equipped they'll be to protect themselves.
Knowledge is power, as they say.
Absolutely. And the rules of the game keep changing too. But, these high-profile cases, as controversial as they've been,
Yeah.
they might actually be the push we need for a more, well, mature and robust crypto market.
So you're saying that these scandals, while painful in the short term,
Mm-hmm.
could actually be the catalyst for some positive change.
Exactly. They've exposed vulnerabilities, sparked debate, and really put a spotlight on the need for better regulation and investor protection.
Like they've shown a light on the cracks in the system.
Precisely. And now that we can see those cracks, we have a chance to repair them,
Yeah.
to build a stronger foundation.
So let's talk solutions then. We've identified the problems, the risks, the need for greater oversight. What concrete steps can be taken to actually create a safer, more transparent crypto market? One that people can actually trust.
Well, I think it requires a multi-pronged approach. We need to strengthen the regulatory landscape,
Yeah.
obviously,
Okay.
but also promote more responsible practices within the industry itself.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. Starting with regulation, what kind of changes would have the most impact, in terms of curbing these pump and dump schemes and actually protecting investors?
Well, first and foremost, we need clearer definitions. Right now, there's a lot of ambiguity about what cryptocurrencies even are. Are they securities, commodities, something else entirely?
Right. It's kind of a gray area.
It is. We need a clear legal framework.
Yeah, because without that, it's like trying to fit square pegs into round holes. The existing laws just don't quite apply.
Exactly. And once we have that legal foundation, we need stronger regulations around token launches. Think mandatory disclosures about the project team, the technology, token distribution, how those funds will be used, the whole 9 yards. It's about transparency.
So shining a light on the inner workings from day one.
Exactly. No more operating in the shadows.
Yeah, make them accountable from the get-go.
Exactly. And along with those disclosures, stricter requirements for auditing and vetting these projects before they can raise funds from the public.
Bringing in independent experts, kind of like a quality control check.
That's the idea. Weed out the scams before they can trap unsuspecting investors. And then, of course, we need regulations specifically targeting market manipulation. Wash trading, spoofing, pump and dumps, they all need to be clearly defined and prohibited.
Right, so it's not just about having laws on the books. It's about making sure those laws have some teeth, penalties that will actually deter bad actors.
Exactly. We need to create a deterrent effect. Make it clear that manipulating the market is a serious offense with serious consequences.
And that might involve giving regulators more authority.
Right. It might. Giving them the power to monitor trading activity on those crypto exchanges.
So they have the tools to spot suspicious activity and intervene if necessary, kind of like referees on the field.
That's a great analogy. Enhanced market surveillance is crucial. Imagine regulators having access to that real-time trading data, being able to track those suspicious transactions, and even halt trading if they see manipulation happening.
That would definitely help build trust in the market, knowing that someone is watching out for your interests.
Absolutely. But it can't just be about government intervention, right? The crypto community itself needs to step up and promote responsible practices, kind of self-regulate.
You're talking about the industry taking ownership, not just waiting for the government to crack down.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. So how can they do that?
Well, education is key. We need to educate everyone involved, investors, developers, influencers, everyone, about the dangers of these manipulative schemes and the damage they cause.
It's about shifting the culture, moving away from that get-rich-quick mentality.
Precisely. Create a culture of accountability where everyone understands their role in protecting the market's integrity. And along with education, we need clearer guidelines for those token launches and marketing.
Setting standards for transparency and disclosure.
Yes. Requiring project developers to publish detailed white papers, undergo those independent audits we talked about, be upfront about their token distribution plans, the whole 9 yards.
And what about influencers? We've seen how they can be used to promote both good and bad projects. How do we hold them accountable?
Well, they need to embrace responsible marketing practices. Do their due diligence before promoting a project, be transparent about their compensation, and avoid making those unrealistic promises.
So no more shilling shady coins just for a quick payday.
Exactly. And platforms like YouTube and Twitter, they need to implement stricter guidelines for crypto-related content, crack down on misinformation and scam promotion.
So it's about creating a system where everyone involved is accountable for their actions.
Exactly. And this cultural shift is just as important as any regulatory change.
Yeah, it's about building a community that values integrity and sustainability. So we've talked about regulation, we've talked about industry self-regulation. What about the individual investors out there? What can they do to protect themselves in this wild west of crypto?
Honestly, the most important thing is to approach any investment opportunity with a healthy dose of skepticism. Do your research, read the white paper, really understand the technology, evaluate the team. Don't just get swept up in the hype or FOMO.
Don't blindly follow the crowd.
Exactly. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Okay, so what are some red flags that should make investors hit the pause button?
Well, be wary of projects that rely heavily on influencer marketing, especially if those influencers don't have any real credibility in the crypto space.
So a reality TV star suddenly promoting a new coin? Probably not a good sign.
Probably not. Also, watch out for promises of guaranteed returns. Every investment carries risk, and anyone promising otherwise is likely trying to pull a fast one.
And what about those pump signals you hear about in those exclusive Telegram groups?
Steer clear. Those are often part of coordinated pump and dump schemes. Remember, legitimate opportunities don't rely on secret signals or insider information.
Yeah, no shortcuts to success, right?
Right, and don't be afraid to ask questions. If you're unsure about a project, reach out to their customer support, join online forums, talk to experienced investors.
It's about being proactive,
It is.
taking ownership.
Absolutely. And remember, investing in cryptocurrency is a personal decision. Never invest more than you could afford to lose, and always have a clear investment strategy.
Right, so be smart, not reckless.
Exactly. And remember, diversification is key, too.
Right. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Now, we've talked a lot about the nuts and bolts of crypto and regulation, but
Yeah.
there's also a psychological aspect to all of this, especially in such a volatile market.
Mm,
We've seen how scammers exploit those emotions like fear and greed to manipulate investors.
it's true.
So how can our listeners develop a stronger mindset to resist those traps?
Yeah, how do we stay level-headed when everything's going crazy?
It's all about self-awareness. Be aware of your own emotions, your own biases, and understand how things like FOMO or the allure of quick profits can really cloud your judgment.
Recognize when you're making decisions based on emotion rather than logic.
Exactly. Because when you see a coin's price skyrocketing, it's natural to feel that urge to jump on board, right? But that's often when you're most vulnerable.
Like resisting the siren song of the market.
That's a great way to put it. Having a clear investment strategy can help. Before you even consider buying, set specific goals. Define your risk tolerance, determine how much you're willing to invest. Have a plan.
So it's like having a roadmap rather than just reacting to every twist and turn.
Exactly. And once you've established that strategy, stick to it. Don't let those emotions lead you astray.
It takes discipline.
It does, but it's crucial for long-term success.
And I imagine it helps to avoid constantly checking prices.
Oh, absolutely. Limit your exposure to those price fluctuations. Check your portfolio periodically, maybe once a day, even less, to avoid getting caught up in the emotional roller coaster.
Take a step back. Focus on the bigger picture.
Exactly. Investing is a marathon, not a sprint. It's about making informed decisions, sticking to your plan, and riding out that volatility.
So looking ahead, as this market matures and becomes more intertwined with traditional finance, what trends do you see shaping the future of crypto regulation?
Well, I think it's safe to say we're going to see a significant increase in regulation in the coming years, both at the national and international level.
So more clarity and consistency in how cryptocurrencies are treated.
Precisely. More comprehensive frameworks addressing consumer protection, anti-money laundering, market manipulation, taxation, all of it.
So establishing clear rules of the game.
Exactly. And this regulation will likely come from both traditional financial regulators and new agencies focused specifically on cryptocurrency.
So a more nuanced approach.
Right. One that recognizes the unique nature of this asset class. And we're already seeing that in some places. The European Union, for example, is developing the markets in crypto assets regulation, or MiCA. Yeah, which aims to create a comprehensive framework for crypto assets and service providers across the EU. And in the U.S., the SEC has been increasingly active in regulating the space, bringing enforcement actions against projects that violate securities laws.
So we're seeing movement on multiple fronts.
We are. And as these regulatory efforts evolve, we can expect more clarity about, which cryptocurrencies are considered securities, which are commodities, and how they should be treated from a legal and tax perspective.
That'll be good.
Yeah, it'll create a more stable environment.
It'll be welcomed. So even though there's some pushback from those who want a completely decentralized, unregulated crypto space, you believe that regulation is ultimately a good thing.
I do. While it's important to preserve that innovative spirit of crypto, regulation is necessary to protect investors, prevent fraud, and ensure long-term sustainability.
It's about finding that balance.
It is. And regulation can actually foster innovation by creating a level playing field, reducing risk, and attracting more institutional investors.
So a more regulated market could lead to greater adoption, more mainstream acceptance.
I believe so. As regulations bring more clarity and stability, they'll make crypto more accessible and appealing to a wider range of investors. It's like building a bridge between the traditional financial world and this exciting new world of crypto.
A bridge that's essential for growth and success.
Absolutely. Now, looking ahead to the next few years, what trends and developments do you see shaping the future of crypto?
Yeah, what's next?
Well, one of the most exciting trends is the integration of blockchain technology with traditional finance. We're talking about things like decentralized finance or DeFi, and the potential for blockchain to improve efficiency and transparency in traditional systems.
Right, so DeFi is already transforming how we think about lending, borrowing, trading, asset management.
It is. And as blockchain technology matures, we'll see even more innovative applications in payments, supply chain management, identity verification, so many possibilities.
It's a fundamental shift in how the financial world operates.
I agree. And this convergence is going to attract even more investment and talent to the crypto space. We're also seeing the rise of central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs.
CBDCs, right. Digital versions of a country's fiat currency issued and backed by the central bank.
Exactly. So unlike Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies that are decentralized, CBDCs would be issued and regulated by governments.
And a lot of countries are exploring this, right?
They are. China, the United States, the European Union, many others.
So what are the potential benefits?
Well, they could improve financial inclusion by providing access to those who are unbanked. They could also streamline payments, reduce transaction costs, and enhance the effectiveness of monetary policy.
And I imagine from a regulatory perspective, they could help governments track financial transactions more effectively.
They could, which could help combat illicit activities. But of course, there are also concerns about privacy and government control over financial transactions.
It's a double-edged sword.
It is. Finding the right balance will be crucial. And as CBDCs become more prevalent, they're going to have a significant impact on the broader crypto market.
So we might see a future where fiat currencies, cryptocurrencies, and CBDCs all coexist.
It's definitely a possibility. And as this landscape continues to evolve, staying informed and approaching the market with a healthy blend of enthusiasm and caution is more important than ever.
You've mentioned staying informed a few times now, but I think it's also important to recognize that the crypto world isn't this monolithic entity.
What do you mean by that?
Well, within that broader crypto ecosystem, there are different communities, different philosophies, different approaches to technology and regulation. It's not just one big unified group.
Right. It's not just Bitcoin versus Ethereum. There are fundamental differences in how people view the role of cryptocurrency.
Exactly. Some see it as a tool for financial liberation, a way to escape traditional systems. Others see it as a way to improve those systems, make them more efficient and transparent. And then you have those who see it primarily as an investment opportunity.
And all those different perspectives lead to different opinions on things like regulation, privacy, the role of government.
It's a complex ecosystem, full of passionate people with diverse viewpoints.
It is, which makes it so dynamic.
It's a constant conversation, a journey of exploration and discovery.
It is.
Moving at lightning speed.
And that's why it's so important to stay informed, to engage in those conversations, and to approach it all with an open mind.
Absolutely. And as with any emerging technology, there are going to be bumps along the way, setbacks, and unexpected challenges.
There will be. But the potential benefits, from financial inclusion to empowering individuals to creating those new forms of value, are just too great to ignore.
It's an exciting time to be involved.
It is.
Now, let's move on and talk about DAOs, which I have to admit are a bit of a mystery to me.
Yeah, it's a concept that even seasoned crypto enthusiasts are still wrapping their heads around. They are a bit of a mind bender. But essentially, DAOs are organizations that are run by code. They're governed by rules that are encoded on a blockchain rather than by, traditional hierarchies in human management.
So imagine a company, but instead of having a CEO making all the decisions, it's all determined by algorithms and smart contracts.
Exactly. DAOs operate autonomously based on those predefined rules set forth in their smart contracts. Those rules determine everything: how decisions are made, how funds are managed, how the organization interacts with the outside world, everything.
It's like a self-governing entity existing purely in the digital realm.
That's a good way to put it. And one of the most revolutionary aspects of DAOs is that they're typically owned and controlled by their members, not a centralized authority.
Okay, so instead of shareholders in a traditional company, you have members of a DAO who have voting rights based on how many tokens they hold.
Precisely. Those tokens, often called governance tokens, give members the power to propose changes to the DAO's rules, to vote on those changes, to elect leaders, even allocate funds for different projects or initiatives.
It's like a digital democracy.
That's a great way to think about it. Now, DAOs are still in their early stages, but they have the potential to really disrupt how we think about organizations and governance.
Yeah, it's a fascinating concept. So what are some of the potential benefits of organizing things this way?
Well, transparency is a big one because all the rules and transactions are recorded on the blockchain. Everything is open and visible for anyone to see.
So it significantly reduces the risk of like corruption or mismanagement.
Right. It's like having this permanent, immutable record of everything that happens.
Hmm.
Another advantage is efficiency. DAOs can automate so many tasks and processes that are usually handled by humans.
Which can save time and money.
Exactly. And because they're decentralized, DAOs are also much more resistant to censorship or control by any single entity.
Right, because there's no central point of failure.
Precisely. It's one of the core principles of blockchain technology.
Okay, so how are DAOs actually being used in the real world today?
We're seeing them pop up in a lot of different sectors. Managing investment funds, creating decentralized marketplaces, funding community projects, even supporting social causes.
Wow, so all over the place. Can you give some specific examples?
Sure. One well-known example is MakerDAO. It's a decentralized lending platform that allows users to borrow and lend cryptocurrency.
So kind of like a bank, but run by algorithms and governed by its users.
Exactly. No more dealing with those bank fees and centralized control.
I like the sound of that. What else?
Another example is Aragon, which is a platform that makes it super easy for anyone to create and manage their own DAO. It's like a toolkit for building decentralized organizations.
So if you have a great idea and a community of like-minded people, you could essentially create your own self-governing organization.
That's the idea. And we're even seeing DAOs being used in gaming, art, music, all sorts of creative fields. They're used to fund projects, manage intellectual property, and create new forms of community ownership.
It sounds like they have the potential to really empower individuals and communities in some amazing ways. But are there any challenges? I mean, it can't all be sunshine and roses, right?
Of course not. One big challenge is security. Because DAOs are run by code, they're susceptible to bugs or exploits in that code.
So a single coding error could have disastrous consequences.
It's a risk, and unfortunately, we have seen instances where DAOs have been hacked or exploited because of those vulnerabilities. The good news is that the development community is constantly working to improve security.
Okay, so what about the human element? Making decisions in a decentralized way seems like it could be messy and time-consuming.
It can be. Governance is another big challenge for DAOs. Reaching consensus among a large group of people, especially online, with all their different opinions and interests, can be tough. And then there's the whole legal and regulatory uncertainty.
Right, because governments are still figuring out how to classify and regulate them.
Exactly. It's an evolving area of law, and we need more clarity to foster greater adoption. So, as you can see, it's a constantly evolving space with both immense potential and significant challenges.
It sounds like it. Well, that was an incredible deep dive. We
Yeah.
covered a lot of ground today, from the shady world of pump and dump schemes to the exciting potential of DAOs and everything in between. It's clear that the world of cryptocurrency is full of complexities and constantly changing.
It certainly is, and it's a space that requires constant learning and adaptation.
Exactly. But as we've seen, knowledge is power. The more we understand about how this technology works, the risks involved, and the best practices for navigating this space, the better equipped we'll be to make informed decisions and hopefully avoid those pitfalls.
Well said. It's been a pleasure diving into this with you.
Likewise. And a huge thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this journey through the fascinating and ever-evolving world of cryptocurrency. Be sure to subscribe to Gotham Trends for more deep dives into the topics shaping the future of finance and technology. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, happy investing.